So dudes, Abe Froman here. So we're going to do some land navigation basics. What I'm about to do right now is get a walking and a running pace count. What I've done is here I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see I have cones set up from 1 to 100 meters and 25-meter intervals. How I did that is I have a stranded 550 cord that goes to 25 meters, so when I practice the ACFT I can do that effectively. But without further ado, let's get to it. First I'm going to do a walking pace count. I'll let you know what the number is and how it looks, and then the running. So when you're doing a pace count, you start off by walking with your right foot or left foot, doesn't really matter, but on the other foot every 2 paces, that's 1 count. So it's 1, 2, so it's a step, then a count. It's really good to count on the way down, memorize that number, and then verify it on the way back, and then write that down. So I'm going to do that for walking, and then I'm going to do that for jogging. Now this isn't a sprint. You're going to do a jogging pace count. So obviously if you're out there, sucking on the course, and you got like no time to get back, you do a real quick running count. So when you're messing with your Ranger beads, you still have an accurate pace count. So let's do this, walking, then running. Alright, so what we end up with, I have a walking count of still 58 paces for 100 meters and a running or jogging pace count for 43. That number really hasn't changed a lot over time. When I first started doing land nav, I typically took bigger steps and ran faster because, young, dumb, didn't know any better. I would just get out there and knock it out and not even think about it. But as time's gone along, I've realized when you're walking through a field like this, you can take gigantic steps and not even know it. But when you're breaking brush or you're going up or down hills, that's not going to average out very well. So when you walk, you are literally just going to walk like very even stroll in the park, almost ruck march style pace. And the same thing for the run. When you saw me do the run, it wasn't a sprint, it was with control, a very even paced jog down and back, and I hit 58 for walking at 100 meters and 43 for running. So now we got that knocked out of the way. We know exactly what our pace count is. I'm going to really quick go over the devices, the equipment that I use to measure this out, in case anybody wants to know. Leave a comment in the section if you want me to do a video on it. It isn't really necessary. It's literally just 550 cord that I've put 2 loops on either side for Walmart tent stakes. This is what I use for lots of different military applications, for hammock setup, for setting up a hooch, for setting up terrain model kit. Great tent stakes. You get the big ones. The small ones aren't going to be tall enough for you to utilize properly, but the ones with the orange marking at the end, you can see it even if it's nighttime. I got about 10 of them, but I only use however many I go when I go to the field, probably about 6. But for this, it's perfect because at my end of 550 cord length, I have loops to go from 0 to 25 meters, and at every 5 meters, whenever I get to it, is a little hex bolt, and I tied 2 knots to keep it at the 5 meter mark, and then from 0 to 25 meters I have 5 meter intervals that I put little cheap Walmart cones down. This one's 0, it's got nothing on there, but the rest have 5, 10, 15, all the way to 20. So not only do I use this for, this is the first time I've ever done like a land nav portion, but not only do I use it for the ACFT, because for the sprint drag carry, how many meters is it? 25, and you want to know at each 5 meter mark what it is, because you can also practice the, what's it called, the standing power throw, and mark it off just to get a rough estimate. But when I go to the range, where do we zero our M4s at? 25 meters. So again, real simple, just 550 cord tied off, and then every 5 meters have a little silver washer so you can put cones down. Again, you know, whatever, just something cool that I do that like helps me out for different applications for the military. That being said, we are now going to go over some other stuff when it comes to plotting, how to hold the compass correctly, and then how to utilize those pace counts we just got to move effectively from one point to the next. All right, let's do it. All right, now we got our pace count. We're going to do a little practical application for movement towards points. So you see I got my equipment on here. I got my high-speed Ranger purse. There's another video on this channel if you want to learn how to make that. Inside of it is a clipboard, some paper, and a pen. No map for today. This is going to be strictly points that I've already plotted with distance and direction, and the main point that I'm going to try to get across is how to move from point to point with more effectiveness. So I got that, I got my empty flick on, compass tied off, and Ranger beads. So if you don't have Ranger beads or Ogden beads, whatever you want to call them, you can make them yourself or you can buy them offline. I think you can buy them from Amazon for like super cheap. I'll put a link in the description. But you need these for your pace count. The lower portion are the 100s, so 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, all the way up to 1,000. And then the top portion are for your clicks, your 1,000 meters. So let's hope you're not making that far of a movement, but that's what that's for. All right, real quick, down and dirty application of the compass. So there are two main methods for using a standard lensatic compass. There is the center hold method, which is my preferred method, where you literally hold it about waist high. You look down, you find out what your azimuth is. You look up, you find a marker, a mental reference point, and you step out towards that direction. The other method, the super nerd method, or cheek to stock, it works, but I mean I have been doing this for quite some time, and the center hold method's never done me wrong. But if you want to, do a super high speed cheek to stock, that's fine. You have the wire on the back portion of the compass, and then you have your magnifying glass and whatever this thing's called that looks down towards the bezel. You find your point that you're aiming for, or your reference point. You line up the sights, the rear sight and the peep sight, and then once you get on, you look down into your little magnifying glass, and then you can see the azimuth. Use it if you want. It's a waste of time, in my opinion, for land navigation courses. If you're doing some insane, like accurate level, plotting, maybe. But for my application and my recommendation for you, just a quick center hold like this. So on my clipboard, I have 3 points plus a start point. So this little base right here is going to be marked as my start point. I am going to show you this clipboard on the camera after I'm done, but I'm going to go from the start point to point 1 to 2, 3 to 4, and then, or not 3 to 4, 2 to 3, and then 3 to back to the start point. Now, later in another video, I'm going to go over actually plotting and doing like the down and dirty portion of your preparation, which is 90% of the way there. What we're about to do here, this is about 10%, the application port. If you spend enough time and you've done the actual, plotting correctly and come up with an attack plan, you should be in and out with no problem. But enough talk, let's knock this thing out. I'm going to take you guys on the journey where to go for these points. I'm going to show you how I personally use my reference points in between here at each point, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here is my attack plan from start point to point 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then 3 back to the start point. So I have my walking and running pace count at top, and then I know what meters I need and direction to go to each one, and I will use this as a reference point to get from A to B. So we're going to start by making a mental note that from start point right here to point 1, I need to go 300 meters at 350 degrees. So we'll take out our compass and we will find 315 before we step off. Using the center hold method, I'm going to find roughly where 315 should be. So right here is about 310. In between the 310 mark and 320 would be about 315. And I'm going to hold that there, and then I'm going to look in the distance and find a reference point. So from here, I am looking about that midsection of trees right there. So as I do my pace count, I'll stop about every 100 to 200 meters or so and double check my compass to make sure I'm still where I need to be. Now I'm going to stop, and I'm going to put my first bead up. After I put my first bead up, quick compass check, make sure I'm still correct azimuth. Jam, 315, keep on going. Now my point one is this tree with the birdhouse. Now if this was one of those markers with the triangle, orange, half white, I probably would have seen that about 150 to 200 meters ago once I broke past that first little section of trees. But I'm just showing you this because while you're walking through, you're always looking for a point. Okay, got to my first point. I moved 300 meters at 315, and I got to this little birdhouse on a tree, which I marked as my my first point. So now I'm going to reset my ranger beads, and then from point 1 to point 2, this is a movement with a directional change, which is why I have stop on there. Notice how I write this down. From point 1 to point 2 is 300 meters at 340 degrees, stop, readjust azimuth to 220 degrees for 280 meters to get to point 2. Alright, let's do it. Now I know from how I map reconned that this bend up here is what I'm looking for. So as soon as I get to where there's a bend in the road, doesn't have to be a road, it could be a fire break or wherever, as it's coming around, right here at the halfway point, right about here, coming up, I'm going to hit right here, 300 meters. So at this spot, I'm going to go ahead and reset my Ranger beads because I know I got to the intersection, the change of direction and azimuth, and then I'm going to shoot my next azimuth for the next step. Alright, now I know my point 2 is coming up on not really an intersection, but where a path meets a road. There's a path, here's a road. I am reaching my 280 meters about right here. So this next one's going to be a short one. 100 meters at 115 degrees in this general direction. Here we are, point 3 to final point, this stump. So now I am going to be going back from which I came to get back to point 1, and then from point 1 to the start point. Now for this one, since I demonstrated a walking pace, now I am going to, there it goes. I'm going to move from point 3 to the start point at 380 meters at 175 degrees, stop at point 1, and then move 300 meters at 135 degrees. So for this one, I'm going to use my running pace. So I know that I'm going 175 degrees and moving around 380, we'll round it up to 400 meters. But because I've already been to point 1, I know exactly what to look for. So that'll make things twice as easy when I get there to stop, reorient myself, and then be good to running pace back to the start point. So let's get it. Camera down. 5, 300 meters.